friends. It's me, Pastor Dave. So your teacher already told you that this morning we're going to be learning about the life of a man who is one of my heroes. His name is Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He was a pastor, like me, and he really loved to study and teach about God and the Bible. I like to do that too. And he was also incredibly brave. So Dietrich Bonhoeffer was born in a country called Germany, which is on the continent of Europe. Dietrich had 5 older brothers and sisters, and he had 1 younger sister, and he also had a twin sister named Sabine, which means, of course, that they were born on the same day. The twins, Dietrich and Sabine, were the 6th and 7th children out of 8 kids in their family. Can you imagine having 8 kids in your family? In this picture of Dietrich and his siblings, Dietrich is the only one with blonde hair. Can you find him? There he is. And in this picture of Dietrich and his twin sister Sabine, Dietrich is the blonde-headed little boy. Dietrich and Sabine had a really nice family and a really good life when they were kids. Dietrich played the piano, and he was super good at it. By the time Dietrich was 14 years old, he knew that he wanted to be a theologian. Do you know what a theologian is? A theologian is a person who studies about God and the Bible so that they can teach other people about the God and the Bible. And Dietrich wanted to be a theologian, and so he began to study and work really hard in school so that he could do that. And he was so smart that he finished his PhD. That's schooling that makes you an expert in one subject. And Dietrich became an expert in the subject of theology, the study of God, by the time he was 21 years old. That's crazy. Most people don't become an expert or get a PhD until they're like 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 years old. So for him to do it at age 21 was pretty amazing. He was a very, very smart man. So Dietrich, after he got his PhD, began to teach in colleges, schools, and in churches too. One of the things that Dietrich did pretty much his whole life was to teach people who were younger than him, especially kids, just like you. He loved to teach kids. In fact, this is a picture of him with some of the boys who were in his Sunday school class that he taught for many years. When Dietrich was only 26 years old, though, his life changed completely because of something that happened in his country, Germany. A man named Adolf Hitler became the leader of all Germany, kind of like the president. Adolf Hitler was a terrible, awful person. He and his friends, who called themselves Nazis, took control of Germany and began to do awful things. They took people who had done nothing wrong and put them in jail. They believed that everyone should look the same. They thought that everyone should have light skin and light hair. And so they arrested anyone who didn't look like that. They put them in prison. They did terrible things to them, and especially people who were Jewish. They arrested a lot of Jewish people and took them to prison, and they even killed many women and men and even children, simply because they were Jewish. They were a different race, and they looked different. Adolf Hitler also started a really big war between Germany and other countries. Many, many, many people died all over the world because of him. Somehow, in Germany, Adolf Hitler convinced a lot of people in his country, in Germany, that the things he was doing were good. And even some people in the church believed that Adolf Hitler was doing good things. Can you believe that? Now, I think some people were just afraid of him, and they didn't want to say out loud that he was doing bad things because they were afraid that he would do bad things to them if they said that he was not doing the right thing. But Dietrich Bonhoeffer knew that he could not stay silent, that in staying silent, it would seem as though he was going along with what Hitler wanted to do, and he knew that he couldn't do that. He began to speak on the radio that Adolf Hitler and the Nazis were not good people, that they were doing terrible things. But before he could even get it out, they shut down the radio station and wouldn't let him speak to the people of Germany. So Dietrich and his friends began to do other things to protect the people who were being hurt by Hitler. They hid many Jewish people, and helped them to sneak out of the country so that they wouldn't be arrested and killed by the Nazis. He also started a new secret church that they called the Confessing Church. This church was not afraid to say that Jesus was king and that Adolf Hitler and the Nazis were doing terrible things. Dietrich started a school for pastors who would lead the Confessing Church, and he taught them about theology in the Bible and what it means to have faith and live as the community of God. He wrote many books about Jesus and how the church should live. Dietrich and his friends believed in Jesus, and that following Jesus means living a life of peace and love. They believed in caring for others, and they believed that the church needed to show the world what the love of God was like. They also believed that loving and protecting people sometimes means that you have to stand up against those who are powerful and strong and doing terrible things. That's a really scary thing to do. But Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a brave hero who was filled with the Holy Spirit. He stood up to Adolf Hitler and he protected many people. He spoke the truth about Jesus, even though it was very dangerous. Because of all of that, Hitler and the Nazis hated Dietrich Bonhoeffer and his friends. Eventually, they arrested him and his older brother and put them in this prison cell. And just before the end of the war, Hitler had Dietrich and his brother killed. They were killed because of their faith in Jesus. They were killed because they were brave enough to say that Hitler was doing terrible things that God would not want him to do. Dietrich Bonhoeffer is one of my heroes because he gave up his life to speak out against people who were doing terrible things. He gave up his life to protect people who could not protect themselves. And he gave up his life to show the world what Jesus is like. So that's the story of Dietrich Bonhoeffer, one of my heroes. Thanks for listening, friends, and I'll see you back in church at the table for communion. Love you.
As I survey the ground for